Welcome to the Soul Sisters podcast. We are your hosts, Courtney
and Liana.
We are recording this introduction on August 5th, 2019. Soul Sisters is a podcast where we talk about anything and everything pertaining to our life experiences. Our goal is to promote healing and share our life journey with you all because, as we all know, life can be a roller coaster.
Right.
We go through breakups, we experience grief, we struggle with temptation and addictions, we experience hardships, but not all life experiences are bad. We also experience joy and have moments where celebration is needed. Due to the nature of this podcast, we ask that all listeners and readers are over the age of 18 due to the content that we will be discussing. Welcome back to the Soul Sisters podcast. So we have something very juicy for you guys today.
Yes.
So we are just going to be talking about different ways to handle grief in a healthy way. And me and Liana were discussing this a little bit earlier.
Right.
But we decided that every single Tuesday,
Yes.
we are going to be reading out loud an article that we found and just kind of discussing the article and whether we agree or disagree or kind of add little topics into it. And so today's article is an article by Tim Kaylees, and I will actually post the link of the article in the description.
Yay.
But it is an article on how to grieve like a Christian because we all know that grief is not a beautiful process.
It's not.
It's very hard, and, especially when you're a Christian, like Liana always says, the devil is always attacking you.
Yes.
And especially when you aren't guarded and when you aren't reading the word and when you aren't prayed up, he will sneak in and attack you and try to tempt you.
He will.
And so it's really important, if you're a Christian, to grieve like a Christian. And so here is the article. It says, "This life is full of loss and full of grief. Though there are times we experience great swells of joy, we also experience deep depths of sorrow. No sorrow is deeper than the sorrow of loss. At such times, it is important to consider how Christians grieve. Christ has lordship over all of life, even grief. The gospel informs all we do, including our grieving. When dealing with the loss of a fellow believer, it is a privilege to grieve in a distinctly Christian way, to grieve in one way instead of being left to grieve in another way. What is that way? How do Christians grieve? Paul provides helpful instruction and begins with these words: "We do not want you to be uninformed, brothers, about those who are asleep, that you may not grieve as others do who have no hope." And that is from First Thessalonians, I am so sorry, 1 Thessalonians 4:13. I was thinking of another book. The first thing is this: grieve. It's good and right to grieve. We grieve genuinely and unapologetically. Death is tragic. Death is sorrowful. It is good to grieve, and this text gives us permission to do so. While it's always important to ask, what does a text say? It's equally important to ask, what does a text not say? In this verse, Paul could have said something like, "But we do not want you to be uninformed, brothers, about those who are asleep, that you may not grieve." He could have ended his sentence there, "are forbidden all grief." He could have been a good Stoic and insisted that Christians must not waste their time and emotional energy in crying. But no, he doesn't say that. He doesn't tell us what we must not grieve at all. Rather, he tells us we must not grieve in a certain way. There is a way that Christians must grieve. What is that way? Grieve hopefully. When Paul says you may not grieve as others do who have no hope, he is really saying something like we grieve, but not in the same way as all those other people who have no hope. Or even though we do grieve, we grieve differently from those other hopeless people. Again, we see there's a distinctly Christian way to express grief. We must not grieve like unbelievers do. What is this Christian form of grieving? Christians experience grief, but without despair, sorrow, but without defeat, sadness, but without hopelessness. It's true, sorrow and true hope, these things don't cancel out one another. We feel the great weight of sorrow and the great thrill of hope. In moments of deep sadness, we feel both. But why? How? How is that we can have hope? There's a lot of text here. I didn't take that into consideration, and I am out of breath, and I'm tired of reading. So, with your permission, Liana, we're just going to stop the article right here.
Okay.
But like I said, I will link the article in the description box so that you guys can read the full article and get all of the details on that full article. But we are going to go ahead and dive in as to what we want to add or kind of how we resonate with the article.
So for me, I would say that was a beautiful article, and I wish when I was dealing with losing my mom, someone would have shown me this article or told me how to deal with grief like a Christian. Because for me, there is 5 stages to grieving, and I'm going to tell you the 5 stages right now. There's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I didn't believe those 5 stages because I've always felt like I will never be able to accept that my mother is gone. But right now I am in my 5th stage, which is acceptance, and I accept it. Not saying like, okay, boom, she's gone, it's whatever, but I'm more at peace that she is not here, suffering that she is in a way better place, and she is obviously always with me. But when it comes to physically, she's not, and I'm okay with that because I know that there's still a part of her here with me. So it's kind of like she's gone but not really gone. In the beginning stages, for me, I can't really speak for everyone else because everyone deals with grief differently. Not everyone deals with those 5 stages in those exact orders. Sometimes it can be a mixture. You may accept it first and then realize no, and then you be denial at the end. It all depends on you as a person, who you are. So for me, I definitely went through those steps exactly in that order. I was not happy. I was very angry. I tried to commit suicide several times because the devil was telling me that it's the only way that I will be with my mother, and it's the only option that I have because I'm a burden to everyone else. And because I lost my mother at 16, I wasn't an adult, so someone had to take care of me. My dad, obviously, he's still in the picture, he's still here, but I chose to continue out my high school years at the high school that my mom went to, so that required someone else to kind of be my caretaker at the time, I guess you can say. And that kind of made me feel like a burden because I felt like I was stopping everyone else's life because they had to take care of me. So, I went through that. I isolated myself a lot. And that's what the devil really wants you to do, is to isolate yourself, because when you are by yourself, it's easier for him to come in and put all these things in your head, and it's easy for you to believe because you're by yourself. But when you are with lots of people, and not just any people, because you can be around a lot of people and they not be good people, and he can still get in your ear. But when you're with good people and people who truly care about you and love you and want you to do better and truly want to help you, that's when it's kind of hard, because you can be feeling some type of way and then they'll notice it and they'll uplift you up and tell you like, that's not true, you are an amazing person, and just give you that oomph that you need. So for me, I isolated myself a lot. I did not really, my faith was tested because I slowly started to not believe in God, and I became angry and upset at him, because I felt like if you truly do love me, why would you put